rhetorical purpose question, as you see on the screen, it is one of the inferencing questions that ask as the implicit idea, or it asks as the indirect meaning conveyed by the author inside the text. So that's one of the questions that checks our ability on whether we find out the indirect meaning or not. So let's get into the purpose and the definition for that. When we talk about rhetorical purpose, first of all, the word which comes in mind is purpose. So the word purpose simply refers to the reason something is mentioned, or the purpose simply means the reason the author states an idea, or the target it may have for mentioning a specific point. So rhetorical purpose question, or rhetorical purpose itself, is the question that simply asks us why the author specifically included a piece of information inside the text. So it requires our understanding of why the author included a specific piece of information. That's the main goal of a rhetorical purpose question. It asks us to find out the reason the author's intention for mentioning a specific point. And usually the answer to this question would accurately describe the role the information plays, or the role that is conveyed by the specific piece of information in the larger argument inside the text. It asks us that kind of reason, the indirect reason stated behind the text. So it is not asking the direct explanation or the direct meaning conveyed. It asks us the reason behind the specific piece of information stated inside the passage. So that's the goal for this type of question. It tests us our ability to identify the role of specific information inside a text. So basically, let's conclude. Purpose simply means the reason. Rhetorical purpose question asks us why a specific piece of information is included. Or secondly, we can add that it asks the role of a specific information inside the text. That's what we have as the rhetorical purpose question. Now, the thing is, the common reasons for including information. It's common when we have a specific text. One sentence might serve different purpose for that. So what could be the common reasons for including a specific point of information inside the sentence, inside the passage? The common reasons may include any of them. First of all, the author may include information to illustrate a point. Illustrate a point. That's the first reason. The author may state an idea to elaborate on the topic, to kind of illustrate on the point which is explained. That's the first thing. So one of the important reasons the author state a specific piece of information is to illustrate a point, to give more elaboration or illustration on a point which is inside the text. That's the first thing. Second important reason could be identifying a cause or effect. To clearly state what the cause could be or what the effect would be, right? So this is the second reason. identifying the cause, it means the reason for an opinion, the reason for a specific act, the reason for a specific event, or the effect of that event. That's identifying the cause and effect inside the text. The third reason could be to act as evidence or explanation supporting a claim. That's the next thing. So, acting as evidence. It is providing evidence, or that's the reason actually to state a supporting point or to support an idea, support a claim. That's second. And the next is weaken a claim presented in a discussion. Often the writer may state a point of information. So in order to kind of weaken the claim which is already stated, it means kind of to disprove it or to reject the idea. That's also another reason. So basically, to illustrate a point, it means to provide enough illustration with explanation to explain the idea. Second, to identify a cause or reason, to clearly state what the reason could be and what the effect. To act as evidence or explanation. This can be another reason for writing a specific point of information. It means the reason can be to explain and support a claim, and finally it could be to reject or weaken a specific claim presented in the discussion. So these are the common reasons a point of information might be stated. Yes, that's something important. Now the thing is, often the rhetorical purpose questions may also ask about the organization. Beside that, we have the reason behind that sentence, the reason behind that piece of information. It may often ask us to find out the type of a relationship or the organization of the passage, and how different pieces of information relate to each other. It's also called paragraph relationship question as well, because it asks us the relationship between two chunks of the text. It might be paragraphs, and says, how does paragraph 1 relate to paragraph 2, for example? Or how does idea A relate to idea B? So it might ask that kind of information as well. It is also completely possible. So we may have these two. One, rhetorical purpose question asks us the reason behind a specific point of view or why the author states that. Secondly, it also asks us the relationship between ideas inside the passage by saying, how does paragraph A relate to paragraph B, or how does idea stated in paragraph 1 relates to paragraph 2. So let's get into the wording and we'll identify which one asks the relationship and which one asks the reason behind it. So the common wordings we have. Why does the author compare A to B, for example? What's the reason behind this comparison? So here the purpose is to find out the reason for comparison. Why A is compared to B. Or why does the author discuss the example of? So we have a specific example stated, and it tells you why does the author discuss the example of. That can be A, B, C, D, whatever idea that it asks. Or why does the author discuss the size of, and then there could be the idea. Why does it discuss the size of A, B, C, and so on? Again, it asks the reason. It starts with a question word why. Or it might ask, why does the author include the quote the quote from, so there would be the idea, the quotation. Why does the author mention? So there would be a specific point of view. Why does the author ask? Again, we have the idea in this blank space. So these are all asking the reason behind a piece of text. Now, if it asks the relationship, we may have these question wordings. Which of the following best describes how the passage is organized? So it asks the organization of the text, how the passage is organized, or which of the following best describes how paragraph 1 is related to paragraph 2. So these two are asking for the relationship. So these are the wordings that we may face in rhetorical purpose question. If you have these question wordings, so it is asking the purpose for a text, the purpose for a piece of information. If these two are, they may ask the organization or the paragraph relationships. Now let's get into an example. So if we carefully look at this one, as we have already done this question in our exercise to the reading, why does the author mention recent experiments? So what's the question asking? Does it ask the relationship or does it ask the purpose? It's clear. It asks the purpose or the reason the author states a specific piece of information. What's that piece of information? Recent experiments. So the type of information which is being asked is purpose. Okay, the reason for stating a point of text. So this question, so we have already worked on this one, so we'll have just a review of it. If you carefully look at this part, recent experiments have shown that certain cave paintings are located in spots where singing or playing an instrument produces the strongest echoes. This correlation, so it says here, this correlation. Now the question is, why does the author mention recent experiments? And we have proven the other time that B was the correct choice, to provide evidence linking art and sound in caves. Because if you read at the beginning, from the beginning to this sentence, it introduces the topic, which is cave painting, kind of art, and then singing or playing an instrument produces the strongest echoes. It is the sound in caves. And then the next sentence stresses the correlation. This correlation raises questions. It means these recent experiments provide the link between paintings as an art form and the musical instruments played as they sound in caves. So basically, that's what we have as the answer. B is the correct choice. Now, the thing is, up to here, we understood what the rhetorical purpose question is and what it asks. Now, the thing is, how to answer. What are the strategies to answer this question type? First of all, and what we call as the first and foremost, the most important actually, is to focus on the function. Anytime we see the rhetorical purpose question on the test, try to find out the function of that specific point of idea, not just the content. Because the rhetorical purpose question doesn't ask you what's the meaning of the word A or what's the meaning of the sentence A. It doesn't ask you the content. Here, it asks you the reason or the function of that specific idea. It asks you that one. So the first thing is focus on the function of the sentence, the function of the paragraph, or the function of that specific word or phrase. Do not only look at the content. So this is the first thing. And whenever you're focusing on the function, ask yourself, why did the author include this information? Instead of asking, what does it say? So it's not, when you find the answer to what does it say, it means you're answering the question of the content, okay? But whenever you answer the question, why did the author include this information? It is asking the function. The reason A is stated, the reason B is stated. So it is actually part of one of the incorrect choices, that if it tells you the meaning of the sentence, or if it tells you what the author says, or detail, or example, so that is usually the wrong choice, because it tells you the content instead of the rule of the sentence or the rule of the content. So it is the first and most important tip. The next thing is, the second way is to look for logical conclusions, logical connections. See how the information connects to surrounding sentences and paragraphs. Does it provide evidence? Does it introduce a new topic? Does it introduce a new idea? Does it contrast another point? Does it give similarities about another point? Does it provide example to a claim? Does it reject an idea? So which kind of relationship is inside the text, inside the sentences, inside two paragraphs, okay? That's the second thing. Carefully think about it and try to find the logical connections between the ideas. Often, if it is very common with paragraph relationship questions. When it comes to ask you saying that how does paragraph A relate to paragraph B, or paragraph 1 to paragraph 2, here you have to look for transition words, especially to see how those paragraphs are connected. What's the logical connection between them? Is paragraph 2 providing extra detail about the first point mentioned in paragraph 1? Is it providing evidence? Is it providing similarities? So what kind of relationship is there? That's the second thing. The third thing is considers the overall purpose. When I say considering the author's overall purpose, I mean check out what is the reason the whole text is written, the whole passage is written, the reason behind that. Think about what the author is trying to accomplish in the text as a whole, and how the specific piece supports that goal. How does it support? Each idea will have its own support. Now, overall, what is the writer trying to tell? Or overall, what does the author want us to understand, want us to know about the topic? That's the overall purpose for that. So think about this topic as well. And the next is pay attention to signal words and transition signals, which I told you transition signals are really important, especially to find the logical connection between ideas. Think if you have the word however, think paragraph 1 talks about a specific point, and then the second paragraph will start with however. So which kind of relationship is here? Contrast. It means the second paragraph is trying to provide contrasting ideas in relation to paragraph 1. If it is for example, it means it provides example and illustration. If it is in contrast, again, there would be difference. There would be contrast relationship. If it is furthermore, it means the next idea or the idea coming next would be in an additional point to the previous point, previous idea, previous sentence. So transition signals and words, they can really help us find out the connection. When we find the connection, we can easily guess the reason behind that point of the information. So they can easily help us to find out the rhetorical function as well. And the next thing is, it's already actually mentioned, we have to read the question carefully, and the question often points to specific information. For example, you might say the example of, or the comparison between A, B, C. So it itself tells you what kind of idea is asked, comparison. So focus on the specific keywords that are used inside the text, inside the question. So that's it. So think about the common rhetorical strategies as we have had the type of information which is being asked. If it is an example, the purpose of an example is to illustrate points. If it is, for example, inside the text, we have statistics. The purpose of statistics is to support a claim, to prove a specific claim, the author's point of view. If inside the passage, the author mentions comparisons between two ideas, inside the text we might have it. So what would be the purpose of that comparison? The purpose would be to clarify a concept. The writer tries to clarify a concept. So in order to clarify the concept, he or she might bring comparisons between two topics in order to make it clear. If we have questions inside the passage, for example, usually the questions come at the beginning as the hook of the passage. So those questions' purpose would be to engage readers, to attract readers' attention. So these are the common rhetorical strategies. If it's question, the purpose is to illustrate. If it is statistics, the purpose is to support. If it is comparison, the purpose is to clarify. If it is question, the purpose is to engage the reader. So these are common rhetorical strategies that we can get ahead. And finally, the 7th step to finalize is we have to remember to analyze not just what the author says, but we have to always check why did the author mention that particular point in that way, or why did the author state that specific point. So overall, in order to conclude, to summarize, rhetorical purpose question is asking the reason behind the author's intention in telling an idea, or it might ask the relationship between ideas and paragraphs, and often the organization of the text. And in order to answer this question type, first of all, focus on the function. Try to find the rule of the sentence, the rule of the passage. Second, look at the logical connections between ideas and paragraphs. Third, consider the author's overall purpose. Find out what is the overall reason the text is written. Fourth, pay attention to signal words. Those signal words can help us guess and find out the right connection. Read the question carefully. Often the question itself helps you with providing specific keywords. Those keywords will be given, and we can use those keywords in order to go directly to a specific part of the text and choose and use actually the right rhetorical strategies. If it is examples, so the purpose is clear. It's to illustrate statistics, comparisons, questions, and finally, we should not look only to the content. We should always focus on the reason behind stating a specific idea. So overall, we call it the ways to answer rhetorical purpose question. Now, we have this topic, cognitive load theory. The question is asking, how does the author organize the discussion of cognitive load theory? So, which kind of information is asked? Here, it asks as the type of organization used inside the text. So we have had, okay, rhetorical purpose question may ask as the reason behind an idea stated in the text, the organization, or the relationship between ideas and paragraphs. So here we have the organization. So you may just read it and then we'll have the explanation. The best way to find out the answer here we have, let's look at the cognitive load theory itself. First of all, if you look at the keyword here, the keyword is refers to. Cognitive load refers to. It means this word is indicating a kind of definition to cognitive load. So the idea is starting with a definition. Then how it works, it talks about that one. Long-term memory, they're kind of stated here. So it is all helping to clarify cognitive load. If you remember, in the last slide, we mentioned that if there would be comparisons between two ideas, the reason for that one is to clarify the idea. So here it compares long-term memory with the working memory. So the purpose is to clarify what cognitive load is. So it's defining, exactly. It's defining the concept. Then it starts in the middle. We have, for instance, a student attempting to solve a complex mathematical equation. So, for instance is a keyword. It shows the reason. Easy. So, when we have examples, it means they want to illustrate a point. But the last slide we had it. For example, if it is examples, it illustrates the points. If it is comparisons, it is to clarify a point. So here we have these two, right? So the example is, again, illustrated here. It is mentioned with detail. And let's look at the conclusion. The conclusion for that one. Ultimately, it starts here. Ultimately is, again, a key word. It shows the final conclusion. So what does it do? Understanding these mental constraints is essential for developing effective educational strategies. It is kind of suggesting. So it tells you if you understand these mental constraints, it will be helpful for developing effective educational strategies. It's a kind of suggestion. So the final part. It starts with a definition, then it gives example, and then we have the ultimate point, which is suggestion. So if you put them together, let's see which one has it. A, by comparing human memory to computer software, we don't have anything compared to computer software. It's not. B, by presenting a historical timeline of how memory research has evolved over the years. So it doesn't give you a historical timeline. It's not about timeline of how memory research has evolved. It doesn't go on with that. C, by defining a concept, yeah, it started with the definition. Illustrating its limitations with an example, yeah, it was student attempting to solve a complex mathematical equation and suggesting solutions for optimization. At the end of the passage, at the end of this paragraph, we have it. Yeah. So the correct choice is C. By debating the differences between intrinsic and extraneous load and concluding that one is irrelevant. So although it mentions the intrinsic and extraneous load, it didn't say that one of them is irrelevant. No, that's not the purpose actually. So D is wrong. B is also the incorrect choice. Is also incorrect choice. We don't have this kind of information. The one correct is C. Great. Let's get into the next part. What is the primary purpose of the passage? So it's yours.